Welcome back to another episode of the Big DK Energy Podcast. My name is Danny Carenter, or DK in the Big DK Energy, and I'm continuing my Atlanta/Tennessee trip, and we just recently had Dakota Freed, a really good friend of mine, and here's another good friend of mine from school who is really kicking ass and taking name in med school. He did 6 years of undergrad at the University of Central Florida, and is now has 1 year left at the Ross University School of Medicine, having done work in Barbados and then here in the States. And so he's going to just give a little description of what it's like in med life, what he's studying, and just other medical stuff that we could possibly learn to help better our daily lives. So with that all being said and done, please help me introduce today's guest, Mr. Ryan Azarkhail.
Well, thank you for that introduction, Danny. Appreciate you making me blush, man. Beautifully said introduction. And let it be said, this is actually my first podcast, so Big DK Energy has officially popped my podcast cherry. So no one else I'd rather pop my cherry than with you, Danny.
Well,
you know that.
I am honored that I can do that for you, Ryan.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah, you've been interviewed quite a few times by the Ross School of Medicine, haven't you?
Yeah, I have. It's been a great experience thus far. I'll go through the details of it, but luckily the opportunities have presented themselves to be interviewed by my school and contribute to some of their marketing, and I've gladly taken them up on those opportunities. So never been camera shy, you know me. And always happy to help out anywhere, anyhow I can, especially for friends and other people. But yeah, just going back to my whole med school process, as most of you guys know, med school is a 4-year plan. I took 6 years to graduate from UCF, did a couple of victory laps.
It's okay. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Exactly. But funny enough, I actually had started as a finance major.
Really?
Growing up, I was always kind of nudged in, half Persian, half white, so I was always kind of...
So you're also a mix as well. Welcome to the Mutt Club.
Yeah, right? A proud mutt at that. Very prideful, obviously, of my background, my beginnings, cultural backgrounds. There you go.
Me too.
Got my Barbahar on, so always trying to represent. But, I felt like I was always kind of nudged in the medical direction.
Huh.
I come from a family of doctors. My uncle's a cardiologist. I have an uncle that's a dentist. My aunt is a pathologist. I have a cousin that's a psychologist. So, yeah, the list goes on. Not to mention my mom, her training, her educational training is as a PA. She went to UF. By the way, audience, please disregard all the FSU and UF stuff here in this room. We're true representatives of UCF, the best school in Florida.
The best football school in Florida now.
School.
When you mentioned all those doctors in your family, it reminds me of that one line from Step Brothers where this is a house of learned doctors. It's like, you're not a doctor.
That's kind of how I feel right now. I'm definitely going through some imposter syndrome. So, yeah, I was always kind of nudged in that medical direction. Obviously you have with your family being in that field, being as accomplished as they are, you kind of felt some of those pressures. So I was always one of those, I was a very stubborn person growing up. Still am to a certain degree. But I always wanted to figure out things my way and go through the learning curve my way. I didn't want to just jump straight into medicine. So through high school, I was in some business clubs, really liked that. I was like, let me take this and run with it. So I enrolled at UCF as a finance major. And quickly, once I got through the prereqs and started diving into some of the finance classes, my GPA tanked, and I was like, I don't think this stuff is for me, man. This is I was like, I'm struggling over here. This is not really the move. So, did a lot of
soul searching,
introspection, kind of took a hard look at myself in the mirror, and had some very heavy conversations with my mom, as well as friends, my sister, even my dad too. And I'd always loved sports growing up, hence the Heat jersey and everything.
We're South Florida boys, so that's why we gotta rep
exactly.
You gotta rep the South
till I die. So I figured, hey, let me dabble some of these healthcare courses, maybe potentially a career in physical therapy. And then I realized, once I started getting through these classes, going through the nitty gritty of them, I realized that okay, I really enjoy this. It clicked. And I found myself appreciating the classes, enjoying the information, and craving more of it. So once I got through that, and then took human anatomy, which is taught at a medical school level at UCF. Very difficult class. I did well with that, became a TA. I was like, let me just see if I can take this one step farther, go to medical school.
Oh, wow. And now look at you.
Yeah.
1 year left.
Did take 3-4 years off in between. But
you know what? It's all right. Like I said, marathon, not a sprint.
That is the absolute definition of my life and my, obviously, educational process so far. Marathon, not a sprint. So, message, I guess, for you and everyone at home is go at your own pace. Let it happen organically for for you. Really is no rush. I think as people, we tend to put ourselves under a microscope, especially with social media, comparing and contrasting our lives to other people's. Go at your own pace, let it happen organically, and follow your dreams, and be unapologetic about it. Go after it. And listen, Rome wasn't built overnight. You're not supposed to have it figured out by 22, 23, 24 years old. I sure as hell didn't. To a degree, I still don't. But, take your time with it, and eventually the right things will fall into place for you.
I think that's awesome. And you're going into a field that not only is very prestigious, but it's also very needed, because I'm a graphic designer or a freelance photographer. Sure, that's great in today's era of social media and everything online, but it's just like, what happens when an EMP just destroys everything electricity-wise? We have nothing. See, people like me, we'd be like, yeah, our skills aren't needed here. However, you and your doctor pals will always be needed. So you have what I call an apocalypse skill.
I appreciate that, man. Let me tell you, it's a very rewarding field. I say this hesitantly because I know a lot of people will judge me for it, but I say that in a lot of ways I feel med school's easier than undergrad. Only because I'm studying things I enjoy.
Okay, fair enough.
And it makes sense.
You don't have to go through the gen eds and all that dribble and drabble.
The physics, the organic chemistries, the chemistries, the labs.
American History 1 and 2.
The list goes on. However, the bulk of information is exponentially more, but it's your full-time job. If you study 8, 10, 11, 12 hours a day of this stuff, you'll do well.
A whole half of your day.
Basically.
Well, maybe like a whole third, and like the other 2/3 are like sleeping and existing as a person.
Exactly. Obviously medical school, it is a marathon. It is a very, very, very long race. And a lot of people are hesitant about going into med school because they don't want to be in school forever. Mm-hmm. That's probably the number one rebuttal to going to med school. But, as a medical student, you become very good at compartmentalizing, very good at like, hey, let me take things one step at a time. And then you become a product of your environment. If you see people studying 10 hours a day, it encourages you to do the same. At the end of the day, it's a full-time job. This school, with as much money as we're paying, it is a full-time job.
Right, and then it's also kind of like peer pressure. It's like, why aren't you studying with us?
Exactly. And that's kind of what happened to me. I was nervous about the type of student I would be going to medical school. But then, once you see people around you and surround yourself by people who do well, you elevate your own status and work ethic.
Man, I love that. Especially it's bringing each other up. And normally, like, in some situations, I feel like some people are out to get each other because it is very competitive out there. But then, like I said, doctors are always going to be needed.
Absolutely.
So what specific study of medicine are you going into?
That's $1 million question right now. So right now, I just finished my 3rd year. I'm going into my 4th year. So nice. I actually start my electives February. The short list is this. So I'm considering either internal medicine, where I can specialize, perhaps maybe something like cardiology, gastroenterology. I don't know, I'm just throwing other fields out there. Endocrinology, rheumatology. You can specialize who I am. Now, what I want to specialize in, if I go that route, I'm not sure yet. Or perhaps even anesthesia.
Okay, got it.
Anesthesia.
They make some good money.
Yes. So anesthesia, because I do like being hands-on. I love, obviously, human anatomy. I like working with drugs.
Not taking them.
No. I just took my drug screening yesterday, so fun fact.
Oh, excellent. And the best part about a doctor is you can prescribe all the oxycodone you want.
No comment. No comment. Obviously, within reason, because there's a lot of barricades, a lot of red tape up now with everything that's going on.
Of course, especially with the drug lean and like cough syrup being the main ingredient that gets people buzzed.
Well, yeah, that, and we have an opioid epidemic here in the United States, so there's a lot more restrictions, a lot more rules that apply with prescribing some of these. Yeah,
in fact, actually, I forgot where I was. I think I was actually in my high school psychology class. Since Sudafed is an ingredient of crystal meth, apparently, like for a while, they actually cracked down on like how many boxes you could take out at a time, like out of a store.
Yes, it is controlled. I know you have to put your name down. So I think I had to buy it once at a cold, and you had to put like your name down and stuff. So yeah, they're cracking down on a lot of things. Just initiating tighter controls, because we don't want to see people fall into this regimen where become addicted to opioids, and then obviously not people to access them, and a lot of these people end up going to the streets to access black market drugs,
which is even worse because they're probably laced with something else that's even worse for you.
Yeah, knock on wood. I don't have any friends or family members that are suffering from that disease, that epidemic, but I know there are thousands, if not millions, of Americans that do suffer and that do pass away, and it is something that we're trying to curtail.
A little side note that kind of is related to that. When I got my wisdom teeth taken out, I found out I was allergic to Percocet.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so future wouldn't have a good time with me.
No benzodiazepines for you then.
That's fine. For some odd reason, it gave me weird acid reflux.
Yeah, really interesting.
Yeah. Oh well. So Ross University of Medicine. So you did your first 2 years at Barbados?
So yes, funny story. So I got accepted to Ross University July of 2017, right? 1 year before I was supposed to start. That August or September, they got actually hit by a Category 5 hurricane, Hurricane Maria. And the original campus itself was in Dominica, which is a little north of South America.
Okay.
I think like the lower Caribbean area, Southern Antilles area. I could be wrong. Sorry, guys. It's been a while since I looked at geography. But and it devastated the island. You know, I have a lot of friends that actually had gone through that hurricane and just told me it was chaotic. So it devastated the island, devastated the school. So the school had temporarily relocated to Knoxville, Tennessee.
Okay.
And which
no hurricanes there.
No hurricanes there. Knock on wood. So yeah, I started May 2018 in Knoxville, Tennessee, which worked out great because I was not only was I still got to stay here in the United States for my first 2 semesters, but you know, I was only an hour away from my mom's house here in Dallas, Georgia.
That's so funny because Georgia has a Rome and Athens, and now they have a Dallas too.
They have a little bit of everything, you know, and a Gainesville.
Oh, that's right. I saw the signs coming this way.
Yeah. So yeah, Georgia's an interesting state. But no, I'll say this throughout my medical tenure. I've gotten lucky. You know, I've gotten really lucky. I feel blessed to how everything's worked out. Pandemic, pre-pandemic, current pandemic, even after this, you know, after initial shockwave of the pandemic, like everything's been working out, and you know, I've gotten really lucky.
Well, you've busted your ass, Ryan. So if anything, you weren't lucky. You made your own luck by working your ass off.
Thanks,
so
man.
hey, and you've got to be giving kudos to that, you know?
Yeah, thanks, man. You know, I guess I'll I'll count my blessings once I can actually graduate and have that certificate stating I have the MD.
Of course. And do you think you'd like go into your own practice after that, or?
That is in the long-term goal cards. I would say in the short term. So the way it works, you know, after this year, I'll be applying for match.
Oh, for residencies,
for residency, and then I'll have to go through roughly 3, even maybe 4 years of residency, depending on the specialty.
Okay.
And then if I specialize, right, if I do an IM and decide to specialize, it's another 3 years. So,
really?
Yeah, I would be speculating about 5-6 years away from any
big money as a doctor.
Significant employment, yes. But, you know, it's all part of the process. It's all part of the plan, and you know, you just take it in stride. But, yeah.
Whether it's the Miami Dolphins rebuilding or you going through med school, everything is a process.
Yeah, I guarantee I'll finish med school and become a full-fledged doctor, finish residency, finish everything else. Almost probably be retired before Dolphins make any significant strides and put together a winning season and actually have stability.
Yeah, especially since they just got rid of Brian Flores.
Oh, man, don't even get me started. Yeah, it is very frustrating being a Dolphins fan. That was actually, if they had mentioned that at the beginning, halfway through the season with the whole 1-7 start, I'd be like, okay, I can kind of understand. But then you go ahead and have 7 straight wins. And
one of the best defenses in the league.
One of the best defenses, right? Especially considering the pieces he has to work with. And I know there's obviously different scrutinies, right? Different holes, different things that Brian does share the blame for. But I felt that his job was safe. You know, I felt that he offered us a lot of promise, gave me a lot of optimism as a Dolphins fan. And the one thing we've lacked through these years is stability, culture and stability.
That and also offense.
Yes, oh, very much so. I mean, that goes without saying.
Are you a fan of Tua?
Am I a fan of Tua? You know, I want to stay patient. Have I seen anything that I've liked so far? There have been little glimpses here and there. I think if he can remain a good offensive manager, limiting turnovers, getting first downs, getting chunk plays every so often, I think he can string some wins. Now, would I trust him with leading us from a come from behind win? Probably not. But if we can keep a good defense and all he has to do is manage the offense, I feel like we can have a very, very good football team. But I would say I'd want to give him another year or two before I officially make that verdict. 2 years is too short.
Got it. Yeah, ever since that hip injury, I feel like he hasn't been the same. Listen, I never played quarterback or football in general, so who am I to say? But it's just like, there are some injuries that some quarterbacks go through, and I feel like that's like the beginning of the end.
Oh, it's significant. I mean, it is hard to bounce back from a hip injury. I mean, that hip is such a complex joint. You have all the the vessels that flow through there, the, you know, nerves that go through there, the muscles, the tendons, you know, everything. It's a very complicated joint. So coming back from that is difficult within itself. The time frame and be as athletic at such a high level, you know, at his rate, especially, you know, as a quarterback, a mobile quarterback.
Yeah.
It is tough.
Do you know who that? Go ahead.
I was going to say, and Tua will always be compared to the likes of Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that within itself kind of degrades his...
Us drafting him.
Yeah, it definitely takes away from, him being, I guess, considered elite or him ever...
Being the hype, tank for Tua.
Exactly, yeah, living up to the hype.
Yeah, ironically, we won like 2 of the biggest games that year when we were supposed to completely tank.
I know. I mean, we still had a shot at Herbert.
True, I know. But speaking of injuries and mobile quarterbacks, this kind of reminds me of when Mackenzie Milton, when his incident happened, and then people just think, oh, a bone is broken. But then, you have to imagine there's muscles, there's nerves, there's vessels. And it's just really cool to see that just from something as bad as Joe Theismann injury, being able to not snap it back in place, but just to make sure that everything is reconnected and flowing again. It just amazes me. The human body does amaze me. It's just that I get very squeamish with bodily fluids. So that's why I don't do anything doctor related in my life.
Yeah, it is truly, it's fascinating, man. It's fascinating to see all the science, all the different parts, the pathophysiology of it, the blood flow of it, the nutrition aspects, how all these systems can come together and work simultaneously, right? It's also scary in a lot of regards and keeps you humble because one system starts to malfunction, that could throw off a whole nother set of symptoms.
Especially the nervous system?
Yeah, nervous system. I could go on for days and days, how one thing leads to another. It is fascinating to be able to connect those dots and see all that up front in person, be able to understand it. I'd be more than happy to describe any of these things to you.
I
don't want to put your audience to sleep, though.
Oh, no, dude. If anything, I'm interested. Have I fallen asleep yet? No. So this sounds kind of like a science fair kind of question, but what's your favorite system in the body to study?
Oh, I actually really enjoy the heart.
Cardiovascular?
I enjoy studying it. I've always been fascinated by it, even through anatomy. The coolest thing, I'll tell you this, was our first semester we had anatomy. We actually dissected a cadaver.
Oh,
right?
okay.
Actually, right then and there is when I knew, okay, I'm not squeamish to any of these bodily fluids and smells.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, that'll weed you out real quick.
I would have been like, yeah, applying to retail stores because I'm not doing this. Bye.
So luckily, I didn't have to worry about that too much. I, stomached it pretty well. But holding a human heart in your hand has to be one of the coolest, most humbling. It's almost surreal. You're like, yo, this is the thing that makes us go. Obviously, outside of our brain, obviously stores, memories and controls.
Yeah, but without the heart.
The heart, basically, you're not dead until your heart is dead, right?
Mm-hmm.
Until you're cold and dead. Or warm and dead. I forget. Sorry.
No, I think it's cold and dead, but...
Cold and dead, I think so, yeah. Cold and dead.
Actually, I just saw a news story about how a man was transplanted with a pig's heart.
Yeah, I saw that. That's really cool. I found that to be very captivating. Actually, I think it's warm and dead. Sorry, guys. Sorry, I just had a complete brain fart, but I'm pretty sure you're not dead until you're warm and dead. Because if someone's like hypothermic and I think their heart's slowing down, you gotta warm them up because the hypothermia.
Oh, true. Okay.
But anyways, the side note, I gotta look back and review. I'm actually studying for my step 2 March 21st, so reminds me I gotta fill in that blank. And I have a lot of brain farts because there's so much information at once. But
and the thing is that you're studying ahead of time. Just imagine if people did grad school and did a regular undergrad thing and they just wait until the last minute. No way they'd survive.
No, you can't. Yeah, with med school you have to pace yourself. It's like a fire hydrant, right? You're trying to drink out of a fire hydrant. The best way to do it, you gotta take a little bit of time. Take a little bit of time
because otherwise it's gonna rip your face off with all the water pressure.
Exactly. Yeah. So right now I'm just going through a question bank. It's got 4,000 questions. So I'm doing around maybe 75 a day. Trying to finish. That's what I was doing before you got here. So I'm trying to finish at least the first week of March just to try and, fill in all my knowledge gaps and make sure I'm good and ready for this test.
Absolutely. And going back to the pig heart, it's really fascinating because if I'm correct, the most anatomically comparable animal to humans is a pig.
I'm kind of embarrassed to say this, but I did see the article. Now, as far as digging into the research of it, I haven't gone that far yet to see, what steps did they take regarding this pig heart? How long of a preparatory procedure did they go for? Was it pig heart? Was it coated in human stem cells? Was it coated in any of his? How did that work for them to prep that organ? So I gotta dig a little more deeper into that. As you can probably imagine, I'm just kind of head is underwater with this studying perspective.
Yeah, you've been doing 75 questions a day. I don't blame you for not doing that, but I think I heard that once because a lot of the shows that I like watching, I love watching like history stuff. So some shows would actually like test out weapons on pigs because apparently they are the most anatomically similar to humans. So by doing the damage to the dead pig carcass, they don't actually have to use a real human, but they can still see the results of what would happen. Any hemorrhaging, any shrapnel through the eye, any G-force. cause impact.
Yeah, no, and I can see how, because obviously you want to have something that's as closely resembles a human heart as possible, especially if you want to use it as a transplant.
Yeah,
because that's a major factor in the success of the organ.
My grandpa actually had a bypass surgery, and part of a cow's vein is in his heart.
Yes, yeah, that's awesome. Oh, is he okay?
Yeah, he's totally fine.
Good.
In fact, he has better cardio than I do.
No way, and he probably has better cardio than I do. Props to your grandpa. Grandpa, if you're listening out there, keep up the great work. Keep biking.
We love you, Poppy.
We love you, Poppy. But I think that's probably one of the frontiers, and there are many frontiers to medicine, right? I mean, we're learning things every day, every month. And I'd say, obviously, like transplant and what will work in the human body as opposed to what won't. I think that's a frontier. Obviously, I think psychiatry is another huge frontier. To a certain degree, even neurology. I mean, there's obviously a lot of things.
There's a lot we don't know about the brain. In fact, if anything, the brain named itself.
Exactly. That just blows my mind. Only organ that named itself.
Because if you really think about it, we're just brains with meat suits.
Exactly. That's basically what we are. With meat suits is one way to put it. I mean, we're a brain with one long tube that goes through us. You know, esophagus going to the stomach for eating.
The digestive system.
Digestive system.
It's an interesting one, but it's a disgusting one at the same time.
It is. I could go into some funny stories about some of the things we found when, we're dissecting cadavers, but, I don't want to make anyone sick at home.
All right, that's fine. Actually, the camera's about to cut off for this part of recording, so I'm just going to cut it off now. You can go take a break or something like that if we need to, but then if not, then we can just hop back on. See, Ryan, I love having people like you on the show because some guests are fun just to speak to, but then others, I just feel smarter after I speak to you.
Well, good. I mean, I enjoy being able to teach, being able to share these nuggets of information, right? Mm-hmm. To me, that's fun. That's what it's all about, being able to share and educate and describe these things. And what good is having all this information if you can't share it?
Right. And so tell me, what is something interesting from middle school that you've learned about?
Well, there's a lot. Okay, there's one syndrome I'm fascinated by, and it's I would say probably my number one fear. Obviously, I have a lot of fears with medicine. You get into this whole thing, right? Sometimes ignorance can be bliss with medicine. Sometimes, as doctors, we know too much. So, that's why there are a large portion of doctors, when they get diagnosed with cancer, don't choose to go through chemotherapy because they know all the side effects of it, and they sometimes know the prognosis. So sometimes
I'm here for a good time, not a long time.
Exactly. So in a lot of ways, ignorance can be bliss. But yeah, I mean, there are a lot of fears. Obviously, for one, I never want to see my family develop any sort of neurological Alzheimer's. Also,
my grandpa had that, and my aunt had dementia too.
Yeah, and that's tough. I think that's another obviously frontier for us to explore, to find better treatments and better ways to curb and curtail this terrible disease. Also, another thing I learned about recently, I actually start my neurology rotation at Cleveland Clinic in a couple weeks. I learned about what's called locked-in syndrome, right?
What's that?
So locked-in syndrome starts when there's some sort of obstruction or damage to the basilar artery. Could be through hemorrhage or stroke, something along those lines. So the basilar artery, so when that becomes compromised, you develop what's called locked-in syndrome, and you cannot move any of your extremities. So it's defined by paralysis, upper and lower extremity paralysis, and you can't speak, so you can't move anything. The only thing you can move you can possibly blink or move your eyes up.
Dang.
So
not even down?
I don't know if there's a down, but I think only up. Don't quote me on. By the way, fans at home, you're not dead until you're warm and dead. I did have to go back and confirm that. But
all right, because listen, I'm a podcast host, not a med student, so that's why you would know that better.
I had to confirm that. Even though I did correct myself, I had to confirm it. But so with this locked-in syndrome, you're paralyzed. You can't move. You can't do anything. You can't speak.
You're a prisoner in your own body.
You're a prisoner in your own body. So you're basically robbed of all the tools, some of the ways that we're able to express ourselves on a daily basis. You're robbed of that. And there are actually people, I was looking this up, there are people that have actually written books that have suffered from this locked-in syndrome.
How would they be able to convey their message if they can't?
So through the blinking or whatever eye movement they had, they were able to kind of transcribe these messages.
I can only just imagine them trying to type out their book in Morse code.
Yeah, so I don't know what system they used, whether it's hey, blink once for A.
Were you born on January 1st? Once for no, two for yes.
Yeah, so I don't know what system they used, and I'm pretty sure it's permanent. But, there are people that have written books from this, and I'm just oh my God, I can't begin to imagine. It almost reminds me of, that scene in Get Out where he's kind of locked in the basement and he's just watching everything as a movie. He's kind of falling into this like deep dark abyss.
To be honest, I never saw Get Out.
You never saw Get Out?
I know. There's a bunch of movies I'm very behind on.
Oh, that was a great movie. So that's kind of in my mind how I see it. It's like, oh my God, like you're just kind of in this abyss. You're trapped in your own body. You know, you have all these thoughts.
There was an episode of this one show called Lie to Me. I don't know what happened. I think he was in a car crash, but essentially he was in a locked-in syndrome kind of situation. So the main character of this show, he solves crimes by reading body languages and micro-expressions on people's faces. And because this guy couldn't literally move anything except blink or look up, the doctor was able to ask him a bunch of questions, but also by looking at his pupils dilating, he could tell the answers as well.
Wow, that's amazing that he would also use that mechanism, even though that's kind of like an involuntary mechanism, the pupils dilating, things like that. Maybe you can see that, okay, this guy was alive, but dilation and constriction is almost like an involuntary response.
Got it. But I think I've actually read somewhere that actually, depending on whether you lie or not, it can dilate or constrict.
I think the science behind lying, I'm sure there's more to it. If you obviously, when they do with the lie detector test, they can see if there's a little spike in heart rate, because if you're lying, you're consciously doing it. I think there's a little spike in like your sympathetic and like kind of shoots your heart rate up, and that sympathetic would also dilate your pupils. So I could see how, yes, if he was lying, but if he's locked in, what would he have to lie about?
See, this is why we got him on the show.
Also, another cool movie I want you to check out, also people at home, I found it fascinating, was Brain on Fire. It's about a young woman. She was about 21 years old, working for a newspaper company in New York. She actually developed what's called anti-NMDA receptor encephalitis. Say that 10 times fast.
Nah, I'm not even going to try, but... so what is it exactly?
So it's an autoimmune disease, very rare. Very, very rare. Maybe 1 or 10 cases for every 1 million people.
Oh,
very
wow.
rare. So your body develops antibodies against your NMDA receptors. Now, I'm not going to go into the science of NMDA. I think that's with like arousal, excitement. So the early stages of the disease are kind of defined by like psychiatric manifestations. So she's like began to hallucinate, became very paranoid, started going to like these manic episodes.
Voices in the head kind of thing?
Yeah, and so people thought she was schizophrenic, and then they thought she was bipolar, and then all of a sudden she just stopped using one side of her body, and then she became catatonic. Catatonic is where you just kind of lay there, even though you're alive and you are functioning, and examination still have control of your muscles. She was just laying there, so catatonic, and then it got to a point, it progressed so bad and became so severe that she wasn't able to express herself. She was getting all these medications for schizophrenia, for bipolar, so she was all sorts of doped up on meds. And then it got to a point where she just became a shell of herself. She couldn't even express herself, couldn't talk about anything, couldn't really translate what she was experiencing. And there was one neurologist who looked at her and was like, no, I think she's got this rare disease. And he identified it. And then you treat the patient with glucocorticoid steroids, and there's a very, very high success rate with that. She went on to write a book. They made a movie. It was fascinating to see that.
Dang, that medical deduction sounds like house level.
Yeah, I know that, and that's the type of stuff that you find very captivating when you're in med school, when you learn about these rare diseases. But you have to learn very quickly that if it walks like a horse, it sounds like a horse, it's probably a horse and not a zebra.
Yeah, exactly.
So obviously in the back of your mind, you always want to have these rare diseases in mind when you're looking at patients, assessing them. But at the end of the day, it's like, look, there's algorithms for this stuff, and there's differential diagnoses, and you go through all these tests to rule things out, rule things in, and there's a whole sequence to it. But I wanted to share that.
Oh, absolutely.
Story with
That's really, as scary as that is, that's awesome to know about. In fact, this is a weird thing about me, but I don't know what it is, but like pictures of people who have gone through diseases, it's not their fault, but it's disgusting. But then it's like fascinating to look at. Like, for example, syphilis, people, they have no skin on their face. And I'm thinking, holy crap, this is really disgusting and scary, but I can't stop looking at it.
Yeah. I forgot the term. Oh, this is going to kill me now. But yeah, there are different phases of syphilis. Obviously, you have the first phase where it appears as an ulceration on your genitalia, and then it can progress to skin, get like these skin rashes, skin like blanching, macules, papules, and then it can progress to like neurosyphilis, where you have these neurological issues, and then I forgot the name of the term, where it does dysmorph some of your skin, and it's going to kill me not remember that term. Yeah, syphilis can be pretty severe. Fortunately, we've come a long way in being able to treat it, and actually detecting it in like medications like penicillin G can help cure the syphilis and contain it.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure that there are a bunch of big people out there, like movie stars and football players, who have stuff going on there because of their life and their access to other stuff.
Yeah. I was always curious about that. Like, man, you know, some of these movie stars, that sort of thing, like with all, obviously, I'm sure there's a lot of promiscuity, right?
Of course.
You know, and I wouldn't be surprised if some of them do have to take a cocktail of things just to curb any potential diseases out there.
I mean, that's what Magic Johnson had to do to fight back the AIDS.
Yeah, even that treatment's come a long way. I have a joke. I'm not sure if I'm going to lay it. I'm not going to put it out there. It's a family-friendly podcast, but yeah, he definitely had some financial aids with that too.
Financial. That was good.
No, but
that wasn't bad. No. I thought you were going to say something else, but no. That's not bad at all.
You know, obviously being in the medical field, I'm always trying to mind P's and Q's, cross my T's, dot my I's.
Permission to cross the T, sir?
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. But in all seriousness, so the antiretroviral therapy has come a long way, and almost to the point now we can really contain HIV and prevent it from escalating to something like AIDS.
Yeah. Contain.
And you can live a healthy, normal life.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
So, speaking of Magic Johnson, you're wearing a basketball jersey, Heat.
Yes, sir.
So,
305.
Nice. So, were you born in Miami?
I was born in Fort Lauderdale.
Okay,
Yeah.
so actually, I'm from Boynton Beach, so you know we're South Florida boys.
Yes, sir. South Florida, always till I die. Always proud. South Florida, born and raised. Resident. Now, whether or not I end up settling down there long term, I'm not sure. But I will always, large part of me defined by my experience in South Florida, always be very prideful of that.
I mean, you know, when we were growing up, we had some of our best sports going on. Well, the Panthers. They sucked up until very recently, but you know, the Heat, especially during the Big Three era.
Oh, that was such an exciting time. So my favorite sport has and always has been basketball. I think what really did it for me was that 2003, the drafting of Dwayne Wade, seeing him come up. I was like, man, this is exciting. I like this sport. I want to get into it. So I started playing. And then obviously, like, the championship in 2006. That was exciting, you know, with Shaq.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I wish I could impersonate him, but I'm not that good.
Hey, you just really need to make your voice feel deep, and then, yeah.
You're much better at it than I am. But yeah, with 2006, you had Posey, Antoine Walker, Michael Doliak. Only the real fans will know who Michael Doliak is. Shaq, Dwayne Wade, Gary Payton, White Chocolate, Jason Williams. That was his nickname, by the way.
I know, that's a great nickname.
Lonzo Mourning, Udonis Haslem, the OG.
Dang. How long has Haslam been on the Heat?
19 years. Next year would be his 20th. His goal is to actually make it 20.
Is that like the longest tenured Heat player ever? Or
yes.
Obviously, Wade was with the Heat for at least most of his career.
14, I want to say 14 or 15, because he retired in his 16th season, right? Because
yeah.
It was Sweet 16, and then obviously there was 1 year he wasn't with, so maybe 15 years.
Okay, but still, that's pretty awesome. Of course, it's understandable he went to Chicago because that's where he's from.
I didn't blame him for that. Obviously, seeing him in Cleveland was awkward.
Yeah.
Very awkward. And I was like, we got to find a way to get this guy back. Get him out of Cleveland. Don't let the guy suffer like that. Hey, to all of you guys that reside or are from Cleveland, no hatred. I've never been there, so I obviously can't talk. But, you know, from things I've heard and, you know, obviously from, like, sports history, I'm much happier being a South Florida fan than I am a Cleveland.
But it's okay because LeBron didn't have to go, Miami!
I know.
This is for you!
And I was proud of him to see them do that. But yeah, then you had those years 2010 to 2014. Just some of the best 4 years of basketball we have ever seen. In fact, probably the NBA has ever seen. In its 75-year history, just was phenomenal. It was exhilarating, night in and night out.
Do you remember when they all did the Harlem Shake with their best team?
That was classic. With Birdman, and you had
Mario as Mario.
Chalmers. That'll never get old. I actually just watched a video like a couple weeks ago. I'm like, God, this is amazing.
Not gonna lie, it's like Chris Bosh I know is a great basketball player, but I always feel like every time I see him, I have to laugh because he just looks goofy.
Yeah. I have nothing but love and respect for Chris Bosh, but I remember, and I feel bad for saying this because he's the nicest guy and he's the sweetest guy. Of course, he brought us a lot of success, but I remember seeing him when he was in Toronto playing for the Raptors. I'm like, man, that guy looks like he could be a Raptor. He looks the part.
Right.
And he came to Miami, I'm like, okay, I gotta respect. I take back all those comments. I love this guy now.
It's all right. I mean, everyone agrees with you. It's just that he's also really good at what he does.
He is, yeah. His Hall of Fame induction was a little controversial. I support it. I mean, because he redefined the role. Obviously, I'm also very biased as a Heat fan.
Redefine the role as like in terms of his position.
Yeah, so, you know,
What position was he again?
he was forward. I know a couple times he filled in as a center for us. He was that stretch big, kind of like a hybrid role.
Okay.
You know, someone who can attack the basket off the bounce or play with their back towards the basket. And at that time, I think only other than Kevin Garnett and Dirk Nowitzki, they kind of like broke the ice on what it meant to be like a stretch big, you know, like a hybrid in terms of like that position and being like a versatile big that they could play forward or play center. They could hit the three. Maybe not so much Kevin Garnett, but definitely Dirk. But
No, Kevin Garnett would be shit talking Dirk.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I mean, I think that warranted, you know, Hall of Fame induction because of how versatile he was, how much he sacrificed for the Heat, but also like how prolific his numbers were in Toronto and how much he redefined the role and kind of orchestrated this whole changing of the guard in basketball as we see it now with, you know, you don't see traditional centers anymore.
I just feel like they're smaller, especially since like one of the biggest centers of all time was Shaq.
Yeah. Can I say this? It frustrates me as someone who loves playing basketball, and I'm usually 7 times out of 10 the tallest guy on my team. So inevitably I'm center, right?
How tall are you?
6'3".
Exactly.
You know, so I grew up playing the center role with my back to the basket. So I grew up knowing how to score underneath the basket. Now with this new era of NBA, everybody wants to shoot the 3 ball. Mm-hmm. And I was just so used to growing up my whole life, the ball coming through the center. It doesn't even come my way anymore.
Oh,
so now it's like I got to leak out to the 3-point shot to try and hopefully hit a 3, which I probably don't. I'll hit maybe 1 out of 3 shots or 4 shots.
It's all right. To be honest, you probably hit more free throws than Shaq ever did. So.
Oh yeah, that's for sure.
You know what? It's okay. So actually, it's funny you mentioned Kevin Garnett because he's actually my favorite shit talker of all time. Now, granted, of course, you've had Kobe
and Larry Bird. People don't give Larry Bird enough credit.
That's
either.
right.
He was a huge trash talker.
But for me, it was Kevin Garnett. I don't know why, but it just was. But who's your favorite like crap talker?
Oh man, my favorite trash talker. You know, I did grow up a huge Kevin Garnett fan. I did. I didn't really pay much attention to trash talk till maybe 06. And I have to say Gary Payton, I would. Some of the legendary things he would say and do, just obviously seeing him on the Heat and seeing it right up there in personal, you know, for yourself, you're like, oh my God, this guy comes every play, every possession with an edge and tries to get in your head.
I mean, that's one thing that Kobe was really great at. In fact, I actually read somewhere, I forgot which player it was, but he specifically learned how to trash talk in like Serbian or something like that. Just so.
Oh, yeah, Luka.
It was Luka.
Luka.
He literally learned Serbian just to be like, hey, fuck you, Luka.
Yeah, it was amazing. Also, there's another story of, I think him and maybe Luis Scola or another player of that, you know, spoke Spanish, and he would talk to them in Spanish.
Yeah.
And just talk trash to them.
You know, he spoke Italian fluently, right?
Yes, I'm aware. He grew up in Italy.
That's right, because his dad, I think, played ball there.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, it can't happen now, but I originally wanted to learn Italian just so I could speak to Kobe Bryant.
That would be amazing. I mean, RIP,
yeah.
Mamba, man.
Where were you when that happened?
I was actually in the middle of my CPR/ACLS training course when that happened. I'm just like, no way. I refused to believe it at first. You know?
Right. I say this every time that I bring it up, but it's just that everybody thought he was a god.
Yeah, you know, and he was so young. I mean, he still had so much life ahead of him.
Despite being retired.
It's funny because when other celebrities pass away, like Michael Jackson, Prince, other big name celebrities, and I'd see other people get so sad and worked up about it, I did feel sorrow for those guys. I did. They transcended cultures. They transcended, they're timeless people, right? But I didn't feel it until once Kobe Bryant passed away. I'm like, oh, this hurts. Like, I legitimately got teared up because I'm like, this is an idol I had growing up as a kid throughout all my years. And you really think someone like that, as timeless as he is, you can't fathom or begin to wrap your head around the thought of maybe them not being here. And especially as tragically one day, you know, they're not. And I was like, okay, now I can understand why people.
And I think any basketball fan, honestly, besides Lakers, would feel the same way because he was instrumental to your game.
Yeah. I mean, he was a role model in so many ways. You know, obviously to his daughters, to the game, to just how he held himself as an individual, obviously to the city, to the game of basketball. He's a great ambassador. You see his fingerprints throughout the world and throughout different industries. He had won an Emmy Award for his animated short.
That was a beautiful short.
Oh, I know. So it was just heartbreaking to see that all this talent and all this goodness just get taken away
in an instant.
I want to almost use the word that we were robbed of it, but at the same time, it's like he brought us so much in those, 41, 42, 43, I forget what age he passed away.
It's okay because every time I throw something into the trash can, I always say Kobe.
Yeah, same.
But this time I say for Kobe.
Exactly. I'm actually very hesitant to say that because God forbid I miss.
Oh, correct. Because then it'll probably look up from heaven and be like, "You're a bitch."
Yeah, especially if it comes down to water pong. I am not using that word unless like I know I'm gonna hit the shot.
When you're shooting it, you should say Kobe, and if it misses, go Shaq.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, that definitely affected me. I mean, it affected me a lot. It's just like, man, it just really goes to show how precious and fragile life is. That you got to treat every day as a gift. It's not guaranteed, and that it can be taken from you in one instant. And you really truly got to appreciate the people around you and show them all the love. And look, there should be no delayed gratification or delayed, like, give people their flowers now. Like, hey, show them the love. Tell them how much you appreciate them right now, because you never know when they might not be on this earth.
Actually, as I was driving from Chattanooga, Tennessee to here in Dallas, Georgia, there was actually a huge crash on the other side of the highway. Like, there were like 5 cars involved, and then it blocked up that entire way. Of course, at being on the other side, I was like, shit, that's bad.
Wow.
In fact, even one time I was driving to Tampa and I got delayed 30 minutes because a car tumbled so much that it looked like a crumpled up piece of paper, and it closed all 3 lanes of the road off. In fact, all semi-trucks had to go off to the shoulder. It was bad.
Oh, that's heartbreaking, man.
I mean, it's on I-4, so I'm not surprised, but still, that's
yeah,
horrible.
no, that's heartbreaking. You never want to see anyone go through that or have to endure any sort of tragedy like that.
Actually, I have.
You have?
I was in the car accident that killed my mom.
Oh my God, I didn't know that.
The SUV, it tumbled, and I remember the first one being completely scared, and I just shut my eyes. The next thing you know, I was in the hospital bed. It was scary, and it almost didn't feel real. And then after the surgery, that's when my dad told me, yeah, mom's dead.
Oh my God, dude, I didn't know that.
It always dampers people's mood, so I'm like, it doesn't need to be brought up.
Appreciate you sharing that, but it's crazy because these tragedies, right? These horrific experiences can have long-term implications, right? And it can redirect the course of our lives in an instant. And obviously it sticks with you, and there's always the questions of what if. And yeah, man, well, thank you for sharing that. That's I can't imagine how tough that must have been for you, your family, and I know I say this without a doubt. I know your mom is looking down on you, and she is super proud of the man that you've become and the person you've developed into. So props to you, man.
I appreciate that, Ryan. Thank you.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's so weird to think because this happened all the way back in 2005.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I didn't realize.
This upcoming August will be 17 years.
Wow.
So actually, my stepmother has been in my life longer than my mom was.
Wow. And how old are you now?
27.
27, so 17 years. I'm sure time has flown by. I'm sure you probably still remember that day like it was yesterday, too.
Yeah, or at least what I could, because remember, I was blacked out for most of it. My sister somehow just got a few scrapes and bumps, but that's it.
Wow.
Which was good, which was fantastic, but it's...
Glad you're still with us.
Well, thank you. Glad to be here. So when people say don't take life for granted, it's just like, I know personally about that. Not to say that, oh, I know and you don't, but it's just that.
Yeah. As a medical student,
you're going to probably deal with this a lot in your field.
Yeah. I've already, as it pertains, I have dealt with death.
Really?
And I don't think you ever fully wrap your head around it or come to fully understand it. You embrace it, right? You acknowledge its existence. You respect it. But can I say I understand it? No, there are a lot of things I still don't understand.
That's right. I don't think a lot of people understand it.
No, yeah, you won't. But you do learn that it's a natural process and it can come at any moment. Also as a medical student, it can be scary, right? Because
someone's life is in your hands.
Someone's life is in your hands, and you are the broker, right? You are the last person as a doctor. You're the last person standing between that person either going home to see their family or going 6 feet under. And to me, that's profound. You got to stay humble. And I had a doctor tell me that I'm scared of ever becoming competent, meaning that it's always good to have the feeling of feeling incompetent. Mm-hmm. So that way you're always pushing yourself to know more, be better for your patients, learn more for your patients, be more well-rounded, so that in the face of adversity and potential things spiraling out, that you can step up and do the best thing for your patients and help safeguard them from obviously crossing over. On the flip side, though, death can be a beautiful thing. I've really learned to embrace and appreciate palliative care. What's like hospice, where it's like if you have a terminal illness or your prognosis is 6 months or less, to be able to enter that palliative care realm where your life is made comfortable and you can have, closure to the end of your life and be surrounded by family and be comfortable, be ease of your pain and really enjoy those waning moments of your life. And I think that can be a beautiful thing. But it is still interesting being in this phase of the game and seeing people cross to that other side. It still hits you a certain way. I don't want that feeling to leave me. I don't. I still want to feel every bit of emotion when someone, even if it's 20, 30, 40 years from now, I still want to feel the impact because that means, okay, I'm passionate and it hits me. But yeah, no, there's definitely even certain situations where I'm out in public. It's funny, like now that I'm med school, people want to collapse around me and like I gotta respond. There's been about like 3 or 4 times where people have been, actually 5 times, where 2 of them were just like kind of like, someone banged their knee, fell down and like thought they broke their bone. And then twice, and then 3 times where like I actually had to respond to somebody.
Really?
And had to, they were like, okay, this is like super concerning, and had to respond quickly. I'm like, dude, now that I'm med school, everyone, it's like I have a giant like sign on my back, like, hey,
I'm a med student.
Go into this emergency. I'm a med student. This guy's got to respond, because obviously before this moment, nothing like that had ever happened, and obviously I never had a need to respond because I lacked the education. Never happened, but now it's happened at least 5 times. And I've had
You're the person that everyone goes to.
Yeah.
I don't have to spend money on any healthcare. I can just go to Ryan.
That's true. Hey, if you guys want a consultation, I'm free to offer. But hey, disclaimer, I am still a med student, not a doctor, so it's not doctoral advice. But I had one lady at Dare nightclub in Hard Rock. She actually started choking on like a candy.
Oh?
Yeah, she was actually a bathroom attendant. I was in the male's bathroom.
Okay.
Doing, minding my business. And she came in, because she was a female bathroom attendant, she came in struggling to breathe, like choking, right?
Did you perform the Heimlich?
Oh my God. So I'm like, I looked at the other attendant, like, go call 911, contact security, call 911, and I just started doing the Heimlich. And this poor lady was probably 5'1", had maybe 100 pounds on her, and I am, 6'3", 215 pounds. All of my might thrusting into her, abdominal region to try and dislodge this candy. Mm-hmm. And I'm convinced I probably cracked a rib, but I know she was definitely sore. But it was just trying to dislodge it, couldn't dislodge it because it was a sticky candy. Mm-hmm. So it partially lodged in, so she could still inhale, but it was very discomforting for her. Luckily, she didn't turn blue, she didn't pass out, she was always conscious, and finally paramedics got there, handed her off. And there was another story. A guy was at Ponce City Market, just having lunch, with my mom, my sister, and 2 of my roommates who were also in med school. And this elderly male, he just collapsed. And this is in the middle of a crowded restaurant. And I'm just like, oh, crap. I spring up. At first, I thought he was having a seizure because we noticed some tremors. And I was talking to the wife, and there was like another former EMT, as he described, that was there. But it was me, my roommates, and the former EMT attended to him. And I was talking to the lady, talking to his wife, like, look, does he have any underlying diseases? Take any medications? What were you guys doing before? Kind of going through the whole interview process. And she said, no, he was perfectly normal. I'm like, oh my God. And then, obviously felt for pulse. And then we tried to sit him up. Or I didn't try to sit him up because the protocols, if they fall, you keep them down on the ground because you don't want to sit them up right away, because obviously if they have to go into another episode, it could be bad. Or if they have broken any bones or anything, you just want to keep them down, right?
Okay.
You want to keep them stabilized, right? Stabilize them on the ground gradually. So, in quote, former EMT actually tried to sit him up. As soon as he tried to sit him up, the eyes rolled back, and then the former EMT didn't have his hand behind his back, giving any support. So the guy fell back and hit his head. And then, bro, like, why are you sitting him up?
I can see why you're former EMT.
Yes. And then the guy goes to start doing chest compressions on him, and the wife is screaming. There's obviously a bunch of people scammering throughout the restaurant trying to figure out what the hell's going on. And so I look at the EMT, I'm like, look, let me check for his pulse first, because that's protocol, right? So I go to the carotid, felt a weak pulse, checked the radial, and I looked at my roommate. Hey, I believe what I felt was a pulse on the carotid. Double check that for me. He was like, okay, it's weak and collapsible. I'm like, okay, this guy's clearly had a pulse. Looked at the former EMT. I was like, dude, he's got a pulse. He's got a heart. Don't crush his rib cage for the sake of doing it. Even though, like, you're supposed to, in all doubt, you're supposed to do it. But if you feel a pulse, that means he's adequate.
He's alive.
He's alive. So, so we prevented him from getting rib cage crushed. Eventually he was diaphoretic and he was pale. So eventually he came back to. And the secret actually that allowed us to have him come back to is I'm like, okay, well, he's no history of seizures. He didn't visibly have like a seizure, although there's some mild tremors. I'm like, okay, he might be dehydrated, might be some sort of orthostatic hypotension, something. So we lifted his legs, sent the blood back to his heart that could go to his brain. And he came back to as soon as we lifted his legs. Then he came back to, and we started talking to him, gave him some water. Paramedics eventually arrived, and he was fine. And he mentioned to me when he came back to that he would have been walking around. It was actually at his I think his grandson's softball game, and it was like hot, so he'd done a bunch of sweating, hadn't like hydrated. So
well, look at that, you're a hero too. I didn't hear about that part, so if anything, you're a med student, a stud, and a hero. So
thanks, man.
So
thanks, man. You make me blush. Hero. I mean, I'm doing what I would want anyone else to do for my family in that situation.
Well, you're doing a wonderful thing, and I think this was your calling.
Thanks, man. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Big DK Energy Podcast with your lovely, eloquent, beautiful, amazing host, Danny Carenter, and his guest from med school, the Persian, the man, the myth, the legend, hopefully future doctor, but definitely in a lot of debt, Ryan Azarkhail. How was that?
Now you made me blush.
I had to pay it forward.
Well, you're doing a fantastic job. Well, hopefully you don't shy away from this next part, which is actually my favorite part of any Big DK Energy podcast episode, which is the bonus question round.
Hey, let's do it.
10 questions where you don't know about it, but they're all appropriate and you will be able to be hired afterwards. So,
beautiful.
That being said, are you ready, Mr. Azarkhail?
I'm ready. Is this 21 questions, Danny? Are you?
It's 10 questions.
10 questions? Okay.
So, number 1. You're playing 3 versus 3 with current and former Heat players. Who is on your team, and who are the 3 you're going against?
Ooh, all right. So 3 on my team.
No, you're the third.
I'm the third, so 2. I gotta go with Dwayne Wade and LeBron James.
Smart.
You have to. And now, who am I playing against? That's a good question. Okay, this is just for fun's sake, because if you're a true Heat fan, you know this guy. Wang Juju. He was like a very tall Asian Heat player that's like deep in my memory bank. I'd want to play also against like Ronnie Cycli. I think that'd be fun, even though it's a small team. And maybe Gary Payton, just to hear him talk trash.
After you guys win?
Actually, that was for an easy win. Okay, but to make it more competitive, it'd be me, Dwayne, LeBron against Bosh, Shaq, and I'd have Jimmy Butler, because I'd want to be competitive. Of course, I want to meet those guys.
Solid answer. Number 2, if there's anywhere you want to open a practice, where would it be?
Right next to you, DK.
Aww.
So we have these podcasts every day.
Wait, in Orlando? You'd want to go there?
Wherever you are. No, anywhere where I can help a lot of people. Obviously, I'd find myself like a city person. So maybe like the suburbs somewhere where I can help a host of people. Also maybe help some underserved people, just so that my impact can be felt.
Any specific city?
I obviously like Fort Lauderdale from there. I'd be open to a place like Orlando, a place like Tampa. And I'm also considering places here in Georgia, so I would love Atlanta, Buckhead, maybe a place like LaGrange. Yeah, somewhere around those areas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. They're all beautiful areas, especially Buckhead.
Buckhead is gorgeous.
Number 3. If you could switch bodies with your favorite movie/TV character and live in their reality, who would it be?
I'd have to go with Dwayne Wade. This is, I know it's not an original answer, nor is it creative, because I've already doubled down on him twice. But, are we saying actor, just celebrity in general? Or?
Yeah, sure. Dwayne Wade is an acceptable answer, but explain why.
Why? Because I'm a huge basketball fan, right? Between all the basketball prowess he has, all that he's brought to the sport, he's got a county named after him, Wade County. Why wouldn't I want that? The championship pedigree, he's dating a beautiful woman, Gabrielle Union. Yeah, and obviously all of his success in hosting different shows, making these TV appearances, all his different side gigs.
And the best part is you get to wake up in his body and his house.
Exactly. Who wouldn't want that? So I guess a second would be a guy like Matthew McConaughey, because I've always been a big fan of him as an actor. Maybe even like Bradley Cooper, other celebrities. I don't know, Cristiano Ronaldo. Which male guy wouldn't want to be Cristiano Ronaldo?
Right. He gets it all. Number 4. What is your dream vacation and itinerary?
So this is something, it's probably not going to blow anyone out of the water, only because it's been on my bucket list for so long, and I've seen all my friends go, my family members go, but I haven't been yet to do it. I want to backpack Europe, go through all the European countries, kind of experience that rich history, culture, food.
Is there a certain country that you want to go to specifically?
So my short list would include Germany, Spain, Italy, Greece, Czech Republic. I heard is beautiful. That would encapsulate my
European trek?
my European trek, my backpacking.
Have you ever been to Iran?
I've been to Iran, yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've been to Iran twice. Last time I was there was 2003.
That's pretty cool. How is it there?
It's actually when I was there, it's actually very westernized. They take pride in enjoying a lot of the same things Americans do. Very progressive culture.
Okay, well, that's good because I remember back in the day when, or not that I remember back in the day like I was alive, but I remember hearing that they weren't so progressive back then.
No, when we say that, it's more in terms of the government, the clerics, the people that
got
run
it.
the country. It's
Fair
very
enough.
antiquated and old-fashioned. The people itself, they try to be as westernized as possible. Obviously, a lot of things from America are probably, for the most part, not permitted to be there, but they do try to emulate our culture as much as possible. And they appreciate us. They love us.
Well, look at that. See, just to show you that we really don't know shit until we actually go experience it.
Exactly.
So, number 5. If you went out for drinks with 3 influential figures in your life, not friends or family, who would it be? And you can't say Dwayne Wade. Got to pick someone else.
No, I will not say Dwayne Wade. So one would be, I think, Einstein. I'd love to pick his brain just to hear some of the things he has to say. The other one would be, I guess, Leonardo da Vinci, just because he was such a huge pioneer and he just invented so many things. He was so groundbreaking on so many different levels. I'm sure a lot of these guys obviously would be kind of eccentric in their own right. That might be weird, but Van Gogh, definitely Einstein, and maybe definitely a president to some sort, maybe a guy like Abraham Lincoln. I think that would be amazing just to hear about what life is like for them, some of their struggles or challenges.
In the White House, too, just being one of the most powerful men in the world.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm a sucker for history. So, as you can tell, all these guys have been long past. So, yeah.
I respect it. I respect it a lot, actually. It's better than, like, any of the TikTok influencers that some people would say, I think.
No, I really couldn't tell you any TikTok influencers.
Me neither.
I am not a Gen Z. Proud millennial over here, guys.
Yeah.
Just Instagram and Facebook for me.
Correct. Number 6. What is a far-fetched goal of yours?
Run for political office.
Really?
Yeah, that's something that has been brewing in my mind. Once I obviously go through my medical career and stuff, something I would like to do at some point in some fashion. Not sure what yet. Maybe Senate, maybe House of Representatives, maybe something on a lower community scale, smaller community scale. But I do, in some form or fashion, run for politics, and I think that would be fun. Because you want to be able to help change and implement change and help affect the community for the better.
Correct.
And I'd love to do that, and I've always loved being in there. And as you know, I was former SGA president for my school.
That's right.
Current clinical science SGA honor council president. So, always have an itch for representation and
leading
service to the people.
All right. I love it.
People.
Number 7. You are stranded on an island. If you can call in 3 items to help you out, what would they be?
Sorry, guys. That was my dog. A boat.
Okay.
A satellite phone and unlimited Chipotle.
Oh, dang. Okay. I didn't really put any parameters, so I guess...
okay. I guess like a fishing pole.
Interesting 3 answers. I would not have... Well, the boat and the phone, but not the Chipotle. But
I throw you a curveball, man. These questions have been curveballs, so,
Good. Well, you've been handling them very well. Number 8. What is a favorite medical fact of yours that most people do not know?
People do not know. Okay, a couple things. I grew up with irritable bowel syndrome.
My dad had it too.
It sucks. Also, I was when I visited Iran in 2003, I was actually exposed to tuberculosis.
Oh.
So I came back and I got treated for it. So now anytime I go get my PPD, it comes back as large because I have those antibodies in my system. It always freaks everybody out, so I got to go get a chest X-ray to prove to people like I've had TB. It's been treated, but it's not latent. It's not active. I'm good, guys. I'm good. All right.
Interesting. Number 9. You're on the 50-yard line for the Dolphins with your family. What 3 celebrities are sitting next to you?
Well, for one, they're going to be losing.
Great.
It's not going to be... Just joking.
Well, what if it's a Patriots game, though? So, see, the thing is that the Patriots, even with Brady, it's like we always had their number.
Yeah, we play up to our opponent and we play down to our opponent. So it's like if our opponent's good, we'll always play good. We always beat the people that we're expected not to beat, then lose the people we're expected to beat.
Right.
So that's the life of being a Dolphins fan. So who would I be sitting next to? Astronomy is always fascinating me. So Neil deGrasse Tyson would be one.
That'd be really cool, actually.
That'd be cool, right? I think he's an awesome dude. Elon Musk. I mean, he does get a lot of flack, and I get it. But I think he'd be a cool guy just to talk to. He's very fascinating. He says some things, very thought-provoking things. So I think it'd be cool to just pick his brain. And then, I don't know, maybe some sort of comedian like Dave Chappelle.
Okay, awesome. Actually,
And
that sounds like a fun crew.
knowing how sorrowful that Dolphins game would be. Only true fans know my cynicism. You need a guy like Dave Chappelle to help boost your spirits.
You're doing such a great job at answering these questions that we're actually at the last question already.
Ooh.
So this is a question that I ask everybody, but it varies from person to person. And it is, what is your best, most recent accomplishment?
Being able to have my family, and I know it's not an accomplishment, but like still having my mom and dad around, my sister, being able to have a great support system, that to me in of itself is the greatest accomplishment. That's the biggest gift that anyone could ever give me. I think we're at the age now that I'm 31 and they're only getting older. My most recent accomplishment that I'm super proud of as it pertains to my professional and educational development would have to be my research that got published.
Really?
Yes.
Published
in a medical journal, Scariest.
Great. So other med students are going to look at your article while they're crying their eyes out.
I was crying my eyes out. I was actually I was typing the thing. No, I'm the third author on the research article.
Nice.
Huge accomplishment. It was about a case study of the use of ICG angiography in tongue flap for oral surgery reconstruction, and it was really cool because obviously I composed the discussion, composed the conclusion, and it was cool knowing that look, I'm on the cutting edge of medicine and I'm helping push the envelope on these new principles, these new changes, these new interventions, that sort of thing.
And you're not even a full doctor yet.
Yeah, and that also is what I felt like a proud parent, seeing that come out and being published, because opportunities for medical students, especially as a third year, well, now I'm a fourth year, but the third year at that time, they come so few and far between, and it really comes down to who you know and networking, things like that, and the right opportunity just presenting itself, that sort of thing. So everyone at home, don't be afraid to push yourself outside of your comfort zone. Don't be afraid to network. Don't be afraid to ask and put yourself out there. Because, the harder you work, the luckier you get. But I felt like a proud parent, so it was cool seeing that go out there, and couldn't be more proud of seeing that come together.
Whoa, that's fucking cool as heck.
Thanks, man.
Well,
it's cool being part of it.
Well,
it's stressful.
Well, hopefully you enjoyed being part of this, because we were actually at the end of the episode.
All right. Well, Danny K, first and foremost, really goes out saying thank you for having me. Thank you for including me.
Thank you for joining us.
And yeah, my pleasure, man. Anytime. I loved every bit of this, and thank you guys for allowing me this opportunity to join Danny K and being here and contributing.
Excellent.
Great time. Had a fun time.
So Ryan, I brought you on the show today because I knew you were very well versed in the world of being a med student, but today not only did you talk about the process of becoming a med student, which could possibly help out our viewers, but you also gave examples of what kind of fields to go into, and gave some great anecdotes of what it's like being in it, especially saving a couple people's lives. So just educating us and just enlightening us with your information, those are the reasons that I think you, Ryan Azarkhail, have big DK energy.
Thanks, man. It's an honor to have this big DK energy, and for you to
bestow
this big DK energy upon me. I appreciate it. It was a pleasure, man. It was fun. I had a good time, and definitely, if you ever have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out.
So if any of you have questions regarding med school or anything medical related, we're actually going to drop his social media links in the description box below. And before we head out, is there anything else you want to say or promote?
I just want to say this, guys. Stay positive. What you get out of life is what you put in. So I've always been a firm believer, the harder you work, the luckier you get. Follow your dreams. Things don't happen overnight, but, as long as you continue to work hard, they eventually fall into place. And that's what happened with me in med school. It's what happened with me, everything. And life is a funny way of working out. So don't ever be too hard on yourself. Roll with the punches.
Excellent. Well, great advice. And with that all being said and done, I'm Danny Carenter of the Big DK Energy Podcast, signing off.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night.